Hi, everybody. Welcome to MJ Comics. I'm your host, James Mack. And it's been a few months since I've done an interview for my Let's Talk Comics series. And I'm really proud to announce that I've got Big Clutch on the channel today. Shawn, thank you so much for joining us.
What's up, dude? How's it going?
Yeah, good. I hope you enjoyed that little bit of intro. I put that just together just to
Telling you,
like
I
it's always nice to have like a bit of waiting time for people to get in, but I appreciate you joining us today. I've been a big fan of yours, so thanks for
oh,
joining.
thanks, man, dude. I love the stuff you do too, man. When you hit me up about doing this, I was like, dude, that would be awesome. I'm also like, why does he want to talk to me? That doesn't make any sense at all. So I
The
appreciate that.
question would be, why wouldn't I want to talk to you? That would be the thing. But no, I appreciate you coming on. You you're California, is that right?
Yeah, Los Angeles, California.
Yeah. So that's like it's 2 o'clock for you in the afternoon,
Two
whereas
o'clock to 10. So like, it's an 8 hour swing, which is like it's always funny too, because like when we do the Beyond Wednesdays podcast and you'll pop in or the show on Saturday or whatever, and you come in at the end, I'm like, oh my god, what time is it? So early for James over there. Like, what the heck?
yeah, it's like 3:30 in the morning for me. So like, I love it though. I absolutely love going on Brian's channel. Like, I absolutely adore Brian and the gang, like Red Hood and everyone. So
Yeah,
it's
they're some of the best, man.
it's like a real experience because for me, Beyond Wednesdays, I get a lot of my like news about what's happening in obviously the industry and what's going on in the comic book and collectible world. So shout out to Beyond Wednesdays.
Yeah, I
Great.
think Brian's done a really good job of like making the 4 shows a week different shows, right? So he's got the Beyond Wednesdays on Wednesday, which is us really kind of being a little more like it's like loosey goosey, but like so we're still talking about this stuff that's going on, and we're talking about new books and whatever. And then like you got the Saturday show, which is like the Mayhem show, which is like they get bananas. And sometimes I'm like, I'm not even messing with this one, guys. Like you do your drama alerts, all that stuff. I don't like to be too much in the drama stuff. But then the House of Stein show that he produces, and then the comic book industry show, like it's really cool to see 4 different, completely different shows. And we've talked about finding other ways to do other stuff. And I think I've got an idea that I'm pitching out to Brian soon to be like, hey, here's another thing. Not that we need more shows, but like another piece of entertainment I think we don't have, or either it's a way we mix it into the Beyond Wednesday show or the Saturday show, or just some way to do it. But it's exciting to be, I've always admired Brian and Leg and those guys and Yee and Hood from like all the days before. Cause like when I was at Skybound, like I would watch them, in that whole post-pandemic time. And, the rebirth of like I don't know, rebirth, but like the awakening of like the comic book YouTubers, like really like a lot of dudes like really came into prominence during that time. And it was really cool to like kind of be tangentially related to these guys and then kind of like invited into the group. And even when like that first little bit of time that Brian's like, he's like, hey man, I consider you part of the show, I was just like, no dude, like I felt odd because I'm like, I'm not, you guys are a unit who has been here for such a long time, and I'm like, I'm just this outsider guy. And then like they fully embraced me, and like it's really cool to be a part of the team now. So
yeah, it's a very special feeling. And like the amount of like comic book store owners and stuff that I've spoken to, and when I've been into comic book shops, they've got like like comic industry podcast going on at like listening to it at that time. It is so like influential, and like it's giving basically the current hot news of what's going on in the industry. It's amazing. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of little things I think we could do to kind of make it even better, but it is what it is, and it's like just a very organic thing. Like when we just go on there and just kind of flow with what we're talking about, and it is, to me, it's very much akin to like just 4 or 5 dudes hanging out in a shop. You're shooting the shit, you're talking about cool books, what's the news, and that's it. And it's showing you, hey, I just picked up this item up, and it's a really cool and casual way to do it. So.
yeah, it's great. It's great. So what we'll do, Clutch, is we will say a quick hello to the people in the chat. I feel like I haven't done this in so long. I've literally all week I've been away on a training course, and I've not had a cup of tea all week. This is my first cup of tea.
Oh my gosh.
because where I was staying, like the tea was horrible, and then when I went to the training course, it was even worse. So I'm been desperate to have a nice cup of tea. So I'm glad that I'm enjoying it with a guy from the West Coast
who doesn't drink tea. So that's great.
Who doesn't drink tea and wouldn't know how to make the best cup of tea.
I could not even come close. I would feel so on edge, even just like I'm like, I don't know is it Earl Grey or chamomile? Like what's a jam? Or is it just like, is it a different thing? Because like for me, like if I think of like tea out here in California, it's like you get an Arizona iced tea in a can, or you get like a True Leaf like ice, brewed iced tea. That's it. Like at least I'm not part of my culture. We don't do a lot of hot teas, although Christina Van Epps, who is on my wife's D&D podcast, Christina has a TikTok where she only makes teas, and she rolls like some dice, and she has this whole like tea board, and she'll like, cool, I'm gonna make this and take these leaves and make it fast. I'm fascinated by it, and she's got her whole little like TikTok group, and I'm like, you're living in a different universe, girl. I love it. It's crazy.
Sounds amazing. It sounds right up my street.
I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, definitely. My jam is I love Yorkshire tea. That's nothing can beat the taste of Yorkshire tea, which is like a northern blend. But I was in the States a few years back in Florida, and I was in the queue at like it was like break time on another training course that I was on, and this girl in front of me was making like a cup of tea, and she like poured the hot water in first, and then like dropped a tea bag in there, and I was like, you know what? Tea tastes so much better if you pour onto the bag hot boiling water. And she went, well, you would know, wouldn't you? Obviously, because of my accent. And I was like, yep. So
it makes sense. If you ever get out here to LA, I'll take you to the place in Culver City. It's called the Conservatory for Coffee and Tea. And AJ, who runs that place, I've been going there. It was actually really close to the Skybound offices in Culver City. And even when we moved into Beverly Hills, we'd still drive like 20 minutes to go there to get coffee and stuff. They're one of the best shops in town. So and they have a massive wall of teas and stuff. It's really cool. So we'll make sure we take you around.
So we'll have a quick hello to everyone in the chat. We've got Alex in the chat. Alex, thank you so much for joining us, buddy. We've got JSS Brooklyn. Really appreciate you joining here. He's one of my moderators. Appreciate it. We have my darling wife, Gemma. Thank you so much for watching. We've got EML. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got Richard in the house. He is my local comic book shop owner. So Rich, thank you so much for joining us. He's a big fan of Beyond Wednesdays as well, to be fair. So he's especially excited for tonight's episode. JSS just reminding people to hit that like button. I really appreciate it. JSS asked a question, but we will get into that. I'll start that, and we'll ask that at the appropriate point. Anyone else in the house? We've got Brian LCS. Brian, thank you so much for joining us as well.
What's up, Brian?
And we've got Lawrence from Mighty Comics and Collectibles. Really appreciate you joining us, Lawrence. Lawrence has got a great channel. I don't know if you've checked him out, but he's got a podcast going on, so you might want to jump on that. It's becoming quite popular.
Let's go.
And we got a super chat from JSS Brooklyn. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. $19.99. I really appreciate that, buddy. Means a lot.
That's awesome.
And then he's asked, what do you drink? Obviously, you drink coffee. What's your favorite? What's your poison of choice?
So I am the softest man in the universe. It's actually pretty terrible. Like my normal go-to is like a white mocha, and I can't have it hot. I have to have it basically warm. So 145 degrees is what I ask for if I go to Starbucks, and most of the time they go, "Oh, you want kids temp?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'll take kids temp, please." Or I'll get like a blended mocha of some such. I do ice mochas a lot too. Hot drinks have never sat well with me. It's probably from like when I was a kid. My mom would like, if you're sick, you know, you have to, here's your hot water and lemon. You drink out of this like little porcelain teacup, and it was like miserable. So I always hated it. But yeah, I'm an iced coffee drinker guy. So yeah, for the most part.
Fair enough. We've got Coroban in the house. Thank you so much, Coroban. It's been a while since we've been able to catch a live. Really appreciate you. We've got a question from Rich, but I'll save that. And then we've got Daniel. Thank you so much for joining us as well, buddy. Really appreciate it, talking about teabagging.
we can get those stories too, guys.
We've got Metal Elf. Congratulations, Metal Elf Collectibles won Gem Mint Collectibles Courtyard collaboration Hulk 181.
No way.
So congratulations for that.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Congratulations, Chad. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. JSS Brooklyn is just reminding people to vote for me in the CBC Awards. I'm up for best hair, okay, and best shorts. So appreciate that. If you
what type of shorts do you wear? Are you kind of more like are you like an 11-inch inseam, a knee length guy?
Adidas, I think. Is that?
Oh, Adidas, yeah.
Adidas, or whatever the word is, but yeah, we've got Walker Joe in the house. Really appreciate it.
What up, Joe?
Well. Don't hold back. Ask Clutch the tough questions. I don't know what tough questions there are to ask you, to be fair.
I don't shy away. That's the best part.
Yeah. Right. We got JC in the house as well. Really appreciate it for joining us. But the first question, Clutch, really is not difficult. This is your chance to tell everybody who is Big Clutch, who is Shawn.
No, who is Shawn? Oh man, that's a really good question. I weirdly enough, I'm a guy who got really lucky and stumbled into a pretty awesome place in the comics industry and was able to kind of maximize that and has really tried to just be cool. You know, I just want to be cool. I want to make cool stuff. It's a very simple thing. So, yeah, dude, I look back and I'm like so thankful of like all the stuff and all the people I've met and all the things along the way. And I'm like, how did I get to be, you know, enjoy this really cool slice of like the fandom that I was already a fan of, you know? So I got to be in, you know, I got to work in the stuff I loved as a kid. You know, I collected comics since I was like 10, 11 years old, all the way through, you know, college and stuff. And then I went to work in music. And so I spent like over a decade working in music. I managed a record store. Then I moved to LA. I worked at record labels. I worked with big bands. And then I jumped over and got to work with perhaps the biggest comic book property of all time. And get to work with one of the biggest creators of all time for, you know, over 12 years. And, you know, and then now I get to kind of be on my own and then work with some of my best friends. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So how long have you been in the industry now, would you say?
So I started, 15 years roughly. There's a couple of weird tangential things early on, but my first I volunteered with Skybound in San Diego Comic-Con of 2010, which is when they announced the show. They had that first, you know, trailer that debuted at Comic-Con, and we had the cast signing at the booth, and Frank Darabont's there and all the cast and stuff. And I had gotten to be there because my friend Cena Grace, who was the editor at Skybound at the time, who was the first employee of the company, was like, hey, I know you know retail. I know you go to Comic-Con. Do you want to come down and kind of work the show for free? It's going to be super easy. You know, we'll pay for your hotel. We'll pay for your booze, your food. I'm like, bro, that sounds awesome. Let's go. And then like, I've said this before, like little did we know it'd be like, you know, 12+ hour days of just like slinging books and t-shirts and like crazed vans. And it was like a lot of hard work, but it was one of the best times. And like my best friend Dave Andrew, who's a writer, and then Tim Daniel, who's also his co-writer, but also works over at he works at Vault. Those guys, I met Tim there for the first time, and we've been friends for 15 years since then, and continue to work on stuff together, all three of us. So it's really cool how that has kind of like that start kind of went through this, and through every little phase of those 15 years, like I've been able to kind of meet cool people and kind of carry them along and with me in tow, and we're working on stuff together. So it's really fun.
So for anybody watching or listening at a later point, when you talked about a show, you were talking about The Walking Dead from 20 to
Talking about
2010.
Walking Dead, yeah,
absolutely. Just in case anybody is not aware of what that is. So
who doesn't know what The Walking Dead is, right?
I mean, yeah. I really love The Walking Dead, and I've got to admit, probably I want to say like season 6 or 7, I just stopped because it just became too samey.
Like, I will give you an honest answer for myself. I stopped watching it in season 8. Because we worked on the comic side at Skybound, so we were comic side, and so the TV show was just always like that other thing that was big and drove a lot of the stuff that we did. But like, I just like once like the Negan introduction season and how that went, and I was like, I think I started watching a little bit of the following season. I was just like, I don't care anymore. It wasn't as good as what Robert was putting into the books. Like they were, deviating from stuff, and it got a little bit monotonous. And I think to your point, like it just got samesies. It was like, all right, this is all the same stuff. Robert did a good job of being able to kind of add new stuff to kind of keep it going. And even though he says, it felt like it was kind of trudging along towards the later part as a zombie itself. So it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I stopped watching the show. I haven't watched any of the other any of the spinoffs or anything like that either. So
no, I think particularly for me, it was I kind of felt like 22 episodes a season was probably too many episodes. I think quality over quantity for me, and I think like if they didn't, because it was just some episodes, it was just filler, and you kind of knew it was, and it was just. Like I don't like to watch it. It's really off-putting watching a show where you start watching the episode and you're like, oh, you know what? I really don't fancy this because it's just going to be. And that's when you kind of like start turning off and start looking at your phone. Or I love to be engaged in it. So, but yeah,
it's interesting. I think like how we've changed in our viewing habits, right? So like I feel like I'm considerably older than you, probably by 20 years or so, but. When we watch stuff in the 90s, it's like 23 episodes out, 22, 23, that was a full season. You watched it the entire way or whatever. And then now it's like, I think, because there's so much other stuff like, well,
I think like 10 or 9 episodes is basically.
I think, I mean, we just got through, I don't know if you've seen The Pit over on HBO, and it was 13 episodes and it was fantastic. Like we watched it in the matter of like 3 days. I was like, this is the greatest show I've seen in a long time, because it was like, that 13 episodes of short. It was longer than I expected, because I figured most things on streaming have been like 10ish, but it was 13, and it fit like a 12-hour day plus a little extra. And I was like, man, like when it's a good script and it's a good series and it moves the entire time, like it didn't feel like nothing felt slow. There was no filler. Like that's kind of like the right space,
Yeah. I think as long as it's all quality and it's not just putting filler content in there to keep it going. But no. So what was your? Do you remember what your first? How long have you been collecting comic books?
We had comics in the house from when I was little clutch. My parents. I remember having like subscriptions to Marvel comics that came in. We had G.I. Joe was a big thing in my house. My dad was, he served in the military, in the Air Force, in the National Guard. And so, he loved, for us, my dad wasn't a displayed nerd when we were growing up. He was very, because he was like, I got to provide for my family and all that stuff. But he took care of us and bought us like every freaking toy we ever wanted, action figures. He loved Star Wars for us. He loved, G.I. Joe was a big thing in our house. Transformers, all that stuff for my brother and I. And so we had a subscription to like the G.I. Joe comics that would come in the mail, and the little brown paper bag and the label on there. But then when I got to, we never went to a comic shop until it was X-Men 210, 211. So the Mutant Massacre stuff is when I got hooked in there. And I remember going to a Thrifties, which is like a convenience store, drugstore out here. We were on vacation in Santa Barbara, California. We went to there for our little day away from the beach, and I saw this, like, I saw two covers on a spinner rack, and I was like, "What's this?" And it was the shot of like the Wolverine with his all battled up face, and you're like, "Oh, this is crazy." And then there was like the shot of the group shot where they're all like, "What you looking at, bub?" And I was like, this guy looks super cool. And so I got to buy those for 75 cents off the spinner rack. And I think I bought like 4 comic books for $3, which, for the longest time in my brain, like that's how comics should be. That's
how much comics will worth.
$4 for $3. It was the best thing ever. And so we were there for 2 weeks. And so we went back a week later to go do our laundry, and I bought more comic books. And when we got home, my mom was like, she's like, "Oh my God, you've been reading these things over and over again." And as it happens a lot of the time when you introduce a kid to that point, we got home, she's like, "Hey, there's a comic book shop in town. You want to go?" And so we went to the comic shop, and I just got hooked from that point on. And then, it was in my life every week until now.
Wow. That's how great of your mom like to say, like, there's a comic book in town, I'm going to take you. That's that must be like a nice memory for you, to be fair.
Oh, absolutely. And it was really cool too, because like so the store was called Comic Dreams, and when we started going, Randall Hybert was the owner, and we became really friends with Randall. And then my friend Jim Lopes, he worked at the shop. We were all, in our early teens at the time. And I met Dave Andry through the shop originally. And, we have stayed friends since then. And it's really cool. Like, we've been able to kind of use the Comic Dreams moniker. Like, we're building up a podcast that we're going to kind of launch up with the Comic Dreams logo. We've actually put the logo on David's first published work with Vault, was a book called Resonant.
Cool.
I remade the original logo, put that on the back as the retailer logo for the book. And then we had Ramon Villalobos, who also grew up in our hometown, Manteca, California. And Ramon drew the cover of the variant that we did. So we tied it all together, and then I send off like copies of that to Randall, who owned the shop, which was really cool. So like, he was like, I told him, "Hey, this all came together. This is all really because of you, like me in the industry, because you fostered me as a kid and like took care of my interests and all that stuff." It was really cool. So like, brought it all back together, back to the shop, which is really, really fun. So.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
So before Skybound, what was your career? What was you doing?
So I worked at Sony Music and at Capitol Records, so 2 big music labels. I worked in music video production, so I was a production coordinator and manager for music videos.
Oh wow! Any really famous music videos that you helped out with, or?
Yeah, I worked on a lot of stuff. Like the Sony days, really lucky to work with bands like System of a Down. We worked with Jennifer Lopez, Killer Mike. Man, there's so many good ones. And then when I was at Capitol, was really fun. We got to work with like 30 Seconds to Mars, Katy Perry, a lot of really cool smaller acts that never really kind of went anywhere as it is. Like, record labels put out a lot of stuff, and they hope, like, here's a buckshot, and you hope something hits, and then that you go with that one. But I got to work with Katie's team a bunch, which was really awesome. And so it was really fun. And then the opportunity to work with Robert and the Skybound stuff came up, and I was like, I just jumped. I was like, this is more where my life knows I need to go. So
yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And so, since we're on about Skybound, I know you've talked about it. You were at San Diego Comic Con, and you like volunteered to help out, and you got involved that way. Did you ever think prior to that moment that you thought that you would somehow get involved in the comic book industry prior to that moment?
Yeah, I did. In 2006, when I was working at Sony, I'd been going to San Diego Comic Con since 1998 with my buddy Dave and our Dan Peterson, who works at Skybound now. Yeah. So we all grew up in the same hometown, so we were just buds, and we just kept going. And so in 2006, the Hero Initiative, the nonprofit that helps out creators in need, put up a charity auction. They were holding a Marvel versus DC charity softball game at San Diego Comic Con. and they put up 2 spots for fans to play on each one of the teams, right? And so I was like, yeah, I play softball every week, and I've been playing it since 2004. And so I was like, oh, bro, I should totally do this, man. And so I targeted I was like, there's 2. They said who the rosters were, and so weirdly enough, like there was the Marvel side when it was like Joe Quesada, Robert Kirkman, Asad Ribic, Peter David, a ton of really awesome dudes. And then the DC side was like Dan DiDio, Jan Jones, Jim Lee, Andy Kubert, I think John Romita was maybe on them at the time. Like, and it was like, oh man, these are 2 stacked teams. And I was like, all right, I was such a big Wildstorm fan that I was like, I'm going to pick the DC side, and I'm going to try to bid that and win that. And so I just, sniped the auction. I think I won the spot for like $1,600 or whatever, which at the time was like, I'm going to eat, ramen for the next month so I can pay for this thing. But I was like so stoked. And so I went in, I weaseled my way basically to meet all these big, comic creators and stuff, and had a great time there. And then became like, I got real friendly with Jim Lee. And then I would basically, because I was at Sony, I was like, hey man, like, can I send you some CDs? And so I had sent boxes of CDs to DC Comics, and the DC Comics would send me boxes of comic books. And so we were basically trading stuff back and forth. And Jim was super kind. He actually he had one of those big Hush slipcases, and he drew like a gigantic 2-page Batman and said like to Shawn, and like sent that to me as a gift. And I was like, I was like, this is amazing. Like, and so something, it's like still in my collection to this day. And so like, I use that as a way to kind of like I'm at least know people now. And so I got to go down to I went down to La Jolla and tour the Wildstorm offices back then. And it was a really cool like way to get in it, but I didn't know how to translate that into a job or anything like that. So I just kind of kept that floating. And then, Cena Grace was the one who was like, hey, would you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And then luckily by doing, we did San Diego Comic-Con. It was such a good show that Robert and his partner DA said, hey, would you guys want to go to New York? And so we went to New York Comic-Con, did that show. And then I think we came back and did LA or Long Beach Comic-Con, which is the weekend that, there was a weekend, Halloween weekend that Walking Dead launched. And then we did WonderCon. And after WonderCon, like I saw Robert in the hotel lobby when I was leaving, and he said, hey man, thanks again for having me out there. We'll talk to you. And he's like, yeah, we'll talk to you soon. And I was like, it's a weird thing to say. And so 2 weeks later, I got a call from DA saying, hey, do you want to come interview to work for us? And I was like, oh shoot. Yeah. And it was like a no brainer at that point. So,
yeah. And so what position was that title?
So it was kind of funny because I got there and Cena Grace was the editorial director, and they said, you guys are going to be basically on the same level. You're the only 2 people here. So basically pick up pick your name. And so I literally Googled went to LinkedIn. I was like, what is a business guy at a company? And they're like, oh, it's a business development. I was like, I'll be that. And so I was like director of business development. And so out the gate, I just got to give myself a kind of cool name and went with it. So,
yeah. And so what was your, what was your daily life as a business development director? What were you doing?
Dude, at the start, it was like, I think one of the first things they gave me, besides helping coordinate San Diego Comic-Con and figure out our web store and all that stuff, they're like, hey, we want to make lunch pails. And I'm like, huh? Okay, I don't know how to do that. They said, okay, figure it out. And so I was like, okay. And so I literally went on Alibaba and looked for lunch boxes company, tin companies, and I found a company that does tin works, and was like, can you guys make a lunchbox? And they said sure. And so they sent me this is what a template would look like. And I was like, send it over to Tim Daniel, who we were talking about earlier, and it was like, Tim, can you help me with this? And he's like, yeah. And he worked up a couple different designs, and we ran through the process, and literally I had to figure out how to I don't know how to do with customs and getting freight shipped over, and so all this stuff was brand new, but I was like, I think it was kind of one of the things that worked out for me. I was like, I'll figure it out. I'll find a way to do it. And so we ended up we ordered stuff, and they're like, okay, cool. Get this in diamond. I'm like, I don't know how that works. And so I had to figure out how to get stuff in diamond. And so the team over at Image helped out a ton and got me set up. And then, that just moved forward. And those little things were, my day was a lot of it was really hey, we want to make something neat, something cool, figure that out. And so I would go and do that, whether it's figuring out how to get t-shirts made and fill up the web store and do all these things. Like I just figured out as much stuff as we could. And at that time, like the early days of Skybound, we literally shared a cubicle in the back of a company called Circle of Confusion, which is a management company that David Alpert also kind of owned. And so we were just shoved in this back corner for like 6 months. We didn't have any other space. And it was like Cena and myself, and we shared a cubicle, and we were like elbow to elbow. And then finally we got our own space, and we hired another guy to work in the warehouse. And so we like started like staffing up, and then I was able to kind of like, you know, switch stuff up and get more people involved. And then when I left the company, you know, my title was SVP of Biz Dev, and, you know, I had, you know, different divisions. I had, you know, the web store warehouse team. I had, you know, guys who worked on licensing. I had the board game side that I was like overseeing, and then the stuff I did for conventions. Like, you know, I had, you know, 15 people that worked underneath me when I decided to leave. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
So what led you to your decision to leave Skybound?
I was an unhealthy son of a gun. I had I think I had a health thing that happened in 2022. Atrial fibrillation. I was at WonderCon, and the first day I was out there having a bunch of drinks and beers at the poolside, and like my heart went into AFib, and my pulse, my heart rate was like 209 beats per minute, and I was like, that's not right. And so we went to the hospital. I spent the whole weekend in the ICU, and I was like, I'm gonna have to have surgery and heart ablation, all this stuff. And luckily, like my body kicked out of it, and so I didn't have to do it. And I was like, okay, I have to change my life. And so we ended up, you know, I had a lot of stuff. I was trying to figure out what my place in the company was, and we had a little reorg inside, and so like things were shifting, and I was like, I think it might be the time to go. And so David Alpert and I, like, we had a couple of really good conversations, and I was like, dude, I think this might be time for me and the company to kind of like to split off. And, you know, it was really hard. You know, like I had been with the company since, you know, the second employee, right? Like we built this thing from the ground up and put so much of my life and my sorry, my nose hairs are getting me, but like I put so much of my life in there, and I realized like, hey, like I had a you know, a bit of an unhealthy relationship with the company because I did take it so seriously and it was so involved in my life that I didn't focus on my health a lot. I just like focused on making this thing go. And I was like, I think I need to step back, and it really helped out. You know, I was able to kind of like refocus and kind of start working on my own stuff, and have had, you know, it's still very stressful in the life of Big Clutch Comics right now, but it's a lot less stressful than like, I know that if I fail, I'm failing myself. I'm not failing a bunch of other people, you know, so I don't have to worry about all that stuff on my shoulders, which is really nice.
So what would you say was probably like the biggest lesson you learned working for Skybound?
Oh man, that's a good question. Treat the people you work with respect and as equals. Like, I've had so many people that I've been able to work with over the years, and I tried my best. Can't say it always happened. There's people that I butt heads with, but like I always try to treat everyone, you know, as like we're together, we're working stuff, and you know, I'm not going to ask someone to do something that I wouldn't do myself, right? Knowing like, hey, you're going to have to do it because it's your job, but like I've done that thing. I know what goes into it. I'm not going to ask you to do something you're uncomfortable with or that you can't do. And you know, dude, people are so important, right? Like if you don't treat people that you work with correctly and your fans correctly and all that stuff, like that's really where it all is. And that is kind of like been the thing that I carry through here is like, you know, I'm working with, you know, with Brian and the guys. Like I want to treat all the fans and the people who watch our show as equals. We are all, you know, I don't know, man, like we're really lucky to have this community, and I don't want to take it for granted. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like I want to know that everyone I'm working with is cool. I don't want to work with anyone that I don't like or that isn't cool and doesn't, you know, that treats people badly. I don't want to work with them. So I just want to work with the people that I like that do good stuff, and that's it. And so I learned that from there. And it's, you know, Robert has, you know, over the years shown that like he works with the people that he likes, and you can see that comes through the stuff that he puts out, right? You know, like working with Ryan, working with Corey, working with Charlie, like when, you know, Lorenzo, like all the dudes that he likes, like, and it shows on the page. It's like, there's no contention. There's no like, oh man, that panel sucks. Cause you can tell that they were like tired at the end of the book. Like, no, like they all liked what they're doing, and it shows. And I want that to be what I'm attached to, hopefully.
No, that's I fully respect that, and I think that's a great what's the word philosophy to have.
Yeah,
Really, I definitely think that we've got a few questions in the chat,
bring them on.
and I will let's have a look. How did? Oh, that's kind of the next question. To be fair, actually, hold on. What was the coolest thing that you created at Skybound? Would you say?
Oh my
What
god, there's
you
so
mentioned a
many.
lunchbox. Is it what?
The
What was
lunch,
the craziest thing that you probably created?
dude. It's weird because I go back and think about certain things, or I'll go through a box as I'm going through storage or whatever, and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot we did that. Like,
Yeah.
like we got to do like a Walking Dead whiskey and Walking Dead wine. Like that's freaking really really cool. Like we did a
Pl-
Walking Dead.
I was gonna say, please tell me that you did the tasting to make sure
Oh,
beforehand.
dude, I was heavily involved, which has probably also led to my unhealthy habits. But
Yeah.
the whiskey, I know I need to find the box with the bottle in there because I need it on my shelf. But I've got the bottle of wine back here, and we did
Oh, cool.
we did the I got a Walking Dead obstacle course race, like a zombie Walking Dead themed obstacle course race that we kind of helped build out, and
Yeah.
like we had that at Petco Park for 2 years. Like at San Diego Comic-Con, we held a multi-day obstacle course race for the Walking Dead. Like no one's ever done that, and no one will ever do that again. We got to have Weezer play a party at San Diego Comic-Con for us, like
Wow.
bananas. But like the actual coolest thing I think I did physically make was just as a fan of like G.I. Joe as a kid, we got to do these action figures and we painted them up as we did redecos of our action figures, and they look like the Tiger Force figures and the Python Patrol figures from G.I. Joe. And me
Yeah.
as a big nerd and Robert as a big nerd, we're both like, this is the coolest thing we've ever done. Like we got to make basically like Walking Dead G.I. Joe figures. And it was such a fun thing. I mean, but there was so much other stuff too. The board game stuff was really great too. Being able to, put out Super Fight and Red Flags, and then like the Grim Fairy Tale stuff. Like, we had so much, I mean, everything we did was fun. It was hectic and crazy, but like there was everything felt like the coolest thing we were doing at the time, which is really cool,
Yeah.
So very, very lucky and very blessed to be a part of all that.
That's cool. That's cool. That's great. Well, great answer. We had that. Diamond. We'll talk about that a bit later. What
So
is
many things.
your favorite all-time comic book story?
Oh man, dude, I go through, I go back and forth on a couple different ones, but I think I've kind of recommitted to it. But like Age of Apocalypse for me
Yeah.
is like the coolest thing ever. Like at that time, it was just so unique, and it also, it's one of those weird things too. I think like people, it's hard to imagine what, when you take yourself back to like what the comics industry was back then, because there wasn't like, you had Wizard, and that's how you get your
Yeah.
information, right? That's really it. Wizard or Comic Shop News, and that was it. Like you didn't have podcasters, you didn't have video shows, you didn't have Twitter, you couldn't only so like they're like, hey, like we're ending all the X-Men books for a period of time and you're gonna get this new thing. It was like this book comes out, you're like, what is this? This is the craziest thing ever. And then you jump in, you're like, God, this story was so well done. The coolest character designs. Like I was just so enthralled. The whole thing, it is really like really scratched a lot of itches that I had that I didn't realize I had for like, alternate universe. I always loved like what ifs and Elseworld stuff. I was always fascinated, but it was like, this is the
Yeah.
first, like, I felt like this was like the first like gigantic, what if Elseworlds thing that we got in one big batch. And I was like, this is my jam. So I think that's probably my favorite one. I mean, there's so many other ones that come up and down, like, but that was the big one for me, like for
Yeah.
sure.
That's cool. Cool. Shout out to JSS Book, and he was working very hard moderating. He was putting all the links in the chat for
Oh yeah, dude.
Skybound and Image and The Walking Dead. So I really appreciate that, JSS.
Thanks,
He's
JSS.
actually up for a Comic Book Community Award himself. He's up
Hell
for
yeah.
I think it's best channel supporter. So definitely consider him for your vote, please. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
We had a couple of people come in and basically say, like, Korriban said, what a epic journey you had. It is really amazing, to be honest, Clutch. And then Walker Joe has said, as a customer of Skybound, you are missed.
Thanks.
So that's nice to think, to be fair. But
And Comics About Live.
but as JSS Booking has asked here, it's kind of leading on into my next question, which
Here we
is,
go.
how did you get your handle, Big Clutch?
Yeah. So Clutch is one of my favorite bands, and they're a sludge, stoner rock band. And I used to, so when I worked in the record industry, I would see them every time they came to LA. And so I used to wear these big shirts with like just big Clutch logo on the front. And we had a good group of folks who would go and play. We would get together and go play kickball. And we one day we were having like brunch after, and like just bottomless mimosas or whatever. And my buddy Tyler Childs, I was wearing this bright green shirt that said Clutch. He's like, "You're Clutch, you're Big Clutch." And I was like, cool. And it just stuck. It's the stupidest thing. It's really nothing else, but it was just because I was like a big fat guy wearing a green shirt that said Clutch on it. And so my buddy T Childs was like, "You're Big Clutch." And I'm like, great. And so it just stuck. And so luckily enough, I was able to like grab the handle and grab, all the stuff, all the social media BS back then. It was like, oh, I should grab this right now. And so got to get, I scooped all that up and it just came together. So, and it's been nice because it is like, the big part, I'm a gigantic man. And I like to, it just kind of carries on, but I like to think that, people have said like, you come in clutch, and it's a nice thing to be able to like come in at times and help out in certain situations where people are like, "Hey, I need help. Can you help me figure this out?" And I've always felt that kind of always has been my role in a degree of, the industry is like, how can I help you guys out? Cause I want to help everyone that's involved. So it's worked out really well.
Well, you think about it when you reflect back on it, like with Skybound, that was you volunteering to help out and being, clutch. So,
yeah, absolutely.
But so how did Big Clutch Comics come to life? Obviously, you had some health problems which made you leave Skybound. What made you think, right now, I'm going to start my own comic selling business, or what venture?
Having been, I was always on like eBay selling stuff, on the side, whether it's like Lego sets or magic cards or whatever. And then, when having done the Comics Vault Live at Skybound, post pandemic and stuff, and just really finding a way to like, I'm on Whatnot. We're doing comic sales. Like, I love that, like building to that community. And so I was like, it just makes sense to do this. And so of course, when I left Skybound, I was like, I got to make some money somehow. So I was like, let's just jump in and start selling books. And then, I got to do a couple things at San Diego Comic Con that year with Skybound as a host and stuff. And I was like, I kind of want to do more in the comic space still. And so I found artists that I like to do, and I'm like, how can I help get them out there? And so like that first year, like Ryan Barry did a variance for me, and Dave Dorman, and it was like, oh, this is really fun. Like, I like to find artists who are, haven't been seen before. And honestly, like, it just fit. And then as I worked with Brian and the guys at Beyond Wednesdays, they were like, oh, this makes a lot more sense to do, because those guys have a really good eye for finding artists that they like on Instagram, or whatever. Like, they've found some of the most amazing artists in the past like couple years. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, how can we take what we're doing with that and put it with my knowledge of like, let's get stuff made, and, having a Lunar account and knowing how to deal with publishers and all that stuff. And so we've been able to kind of do some really cool stuff with artists that we've liked, and, having those ins has really helped out too. And so for me, it's like, I just want to keep rolling with this. And so I'll host shows, and I'll set up conventions and stuff like that. We're working on a couple different comic properties with Dave and Tim as well. And so those things are in the really early stages of stuff. So there will actually be a Big Clutch, comics branded thing coming out. It might not be under Big Clutch Comics, but it'll be in our, another brand. But we have a couple things that are hopefully next year, as long as the world doesn't blow up, we'll be having something out.
So what kind of Big Clutch Comics, what sets you apart from other, comic other sellers, basically? What would you say?
In terms of just like me, or as in
Yeah, I
terms of
mean,
like, or what we're trying to put out and stuff, you mean?
I think, well, for me, right, so I would probably say what sets you apart from other websites or comic book sellers is your reputation. Like, transparency and integrity. Like, I don't think anyone can fault you for that.
Trying.
So
Yeah. No,
I think that's what.
yeah,
Sorry.
that's actually really spot on. Actually, I think I want to be as upfront with what we're doing, and I think it's also I want to do something that feels curated. I got to Dirty Flipper. I love that. I want to, I want to make stuff that that I find fascinating and
Yeah,
entertaining. So like when this idea of the Battle Beast, comic packs came together, with eBay. So I've been consulting with eBay for eBay Live for the past 2 years. And I knew that Battle Beast was a thing, and brought, like, hey, we're going to do these blind bags. I was like, what can we do to kind of augment that and make it a little bit bigger? And I was like, oh, cool. Like, let's do an actual like comic trading pack. And I'm friends with Jack from Whatnot. And, I love what he's been doing over there with all their comic packs with Marvel and stuff. And I was like, I know we can do something that could be, on par with what they're doing, because they've done some amazing stuff. But also, like, I want it to be a little more, I guess, bespoke. I want it to be like, I want it to feel like this is a clutch thing. And so I was able to kind of like, I pitched up this idea. It's like, eBay, Skybound, like, what do you guys think about this? And they're like, we love it. And so, got to merge all my worlds together of like, one, taking, finding an artist named Pete Carroll, who Brian from, Beyond Wednesdays was like, I love this guy's art. And I was like, he's great. Let me talk to him. So we got Pete to do this Battle Beast cover. And then I use all my knowledge from Skybound of like, okay, how do I produce this? How do I get the bags? How do I make this thing, whatever? How do I put together, like, we had, sign books, sketch covers, all these things mixed in there. My love for trading cards and sports cards. Like, how do I make a pack? What's the ratios? What are all the stuff? Like, built this product, and like, we had a pretty awesome launch with it, and was able to kind of share that also with the eBay Live sellers, and really kind of like augmented Skybound's release of their product, which was, 200, plus thousand blind bags, plus, another 150,000 copies for Battle Beast, which was massive. And to say, hey, like, we're this other cool little piece here that fits this niche of like what these comic buyers want, and the pack space and all this stuff is really like, people are looking for something a little different in the comic space right now. And we like, hey, like, let's do our version of it. It worked out really well. And so, I get to now do this Transformers pack. And so I went back to Pete, and Pete's doing a couple covers for this new Transformers 25 comic pack that's coming out in a couple weeks. And then I've got Suspiria Vilches, who's another artist that from Beyond Wednesdays. Mark Spears is another artist that Beyond Wednesdays has been all over. And then Godtail's doing a couple covers, who an artist that I absolutely love, who's over at Comic Sketch Art. And then, I got signed books. We've got 20 something different sketch covers. So we're building another package that's going to be complementary to what that was. And like, I, as a fan, I'm so excited. Like, I want to open them, even though I'm going to be making them, I want to open them. So when they come out, it's going to be awesome. I'm so happy. And taking all those little worlds together and putting every little piece and making this thing is like, I'm like, oh, this is what I feel like I was, I'm supposed to do in this space right now.
Really cool. Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of like a win-win for you, because obviously you're selling the product, but you also get to open it if they request it open, and that's like,
oh, it's so fun.
But I'm a big trading card fan as well, and like pack ripping is like one of my favorite things. Like, so like you must be living the dream. And like you mentioned,
that the high that comes from like cracking a pack and getting a hit. Oh my gosh, unbeatable.
Those Battle Beast packs were phenomenal. And I've got to admit, Shawn, eBay Live, like you doing those eBay Live Battle Beast packs, I really think you helped like push that platform go off, basically. I think personally,
I appreciate that. It's really cool to hear you say that too, because it's also really a nice compliment to the fact that like I was the first person to ever sell a comic book on Whatnot as well.
Oh wow.
And so Yeah, it was the very first person we ever tried it out with a CVL show, and we helped put Whatnot. We did like their first partnership deal with the Invincible books that we did for them too. So it's really been fun to like help be a part of like these early stages on both platforms. Is really awesome.
Yeah, and to be fair, like you mentioned Pete Carroll, who is a British artist. Here's some of his work. So this is Something is Killing the Children. That
Oh
looks
man.
phenomenal. And then you had another exclusive for Post Malone's Big Rig.
Oh my
That's a
gosh, yeah.
pretty dope cover as well. And you mentioned Suspiria as well, who I've got to admit, I think this is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
Honestly,
those covers, they came out so good. Like Suspiria she is such a cool human being. Like, and having met her through the podcast and stuff, and
yeah,
like I'm so excited for the day that we get to be at the same show together, because it's going to be like we're going to have such a good time. Like, she killed these covers. Like, her style is amazing. We got a couple other books that we're doing with her coming up soon. It's awesome. She's
yeah,
rad.
they're phenomenal covers. And Pete's are as well. They're really good.
Yeah, Pete's
I'm
amazing.
regularly checking Pete's website to see if there's any original art going, because he's very, very talented.
We've been talking about it too, because I know that he's like, he puts them out whatever he wants. He's still trying to figure out what he's doing with the art, because he's got between so the Battle Beast, which I think he sold. I actually kind of kicked myself for not buying it, because I was like, he was like, hey, if you want to buy it, it's yours to buy. And I was like, no, man, I want someone else to get it. Like, even though I like myself, I collect a lot of art or whatever, but I was like, it would be really cool to get I want your art out to other people. I want other collectors to be able to get your stuff. And same thing with the Suspiria cover. She said, oh, if you wanted them, you could have them. I'm like, no, I want buyers. I want collectors to get them, because I know that they're going to be, cherished as well. I don't want to be the guy I don't want to be Smaug and just like hoard everything. But I do kick myself. I'm like, oh, I should have got that Pete cover. But I know that he's got, where I think he finished up the 6th issue of Exquisite Corpses covers, which we're doing a cover for each killer. He's got the Speed Racer. We're doing a Racer X cover that's coming out very soon. Just so many.
I'll kind of showcase your website.
Oh yeah.
Up here.
Oh, my website's my website. Shout out to Brayton, who's helping me redo my website very soon. So.
Oh, cool. So you've got some
Mark Spears. Oh my gosh, that cover is so sick.
Where would I find the Exquisite Corpses covers? Would it be under?
If you scroll down, they should actually be on the front. Should be on the front page.
Oh yeah, here they are. Yeah, I thought.
So
issue number 5, brilliant. That looks phenomenal.
And so they're all, and it was Pete's idea to do this kind of like framing, this like pose. And so every killer, you see their backside and their head turned, their profile.
Yeah.
And it's man. He's and it's awesome too, because the Tiny Onion fans, who they are absolutely they're enthralled with his stuff, and so he's been hit up about, I think, each of these covers already separately. So I don't know if he's sold any yet or if he's plans to, but they're so damn good.
Yeah, they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And to be fair, it's a really good series as well. I'm really enjoying reading it, and I love the little again, I'm a sucker for like trading cards. So the polybag cover C, where you get the trading card for the game that will be coming out next year. Really cool.
I did email JC gave me the suggestion of like, hey, he's like, if you can do Pete Carroll trading cards, it'd be awesome. So I hit up Tiny Young. I was like, hey, like, can we do a subset with Pete's art on those cards? And they were like, we can talk about it. So not saying it's going to happen, but if it does, I'm absolutely pulling the trigger. We're going to do it, because I think it would be awesome to see his art on those cards.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. And it's good to see you using your connections with Skybound and stuff like that. It's really, really, really good. I
want to give an extra, like, how can I also make those connections with people? Like, here's an extra bit of your, like, how does this guy want to do this thing? Like that Zartan cover you saw on there, the Mark Spears one, that just came from a conversation with me and Mark one day. And we were shooting the shit. And he was just like, hey, I'd love to, he's like, I'd love to do a G.I. Joe book. I'm like, I could help you put that together. And he's like, you want to do it together? I'm like, sure. And so within like an afternoon, and I pitched the idea to Skybound, and, boom, 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 there you go. And so then Mark, in his crazy busy schedule was able to find time to do it. And, now he's, and, we're seeing Mark just on a crazy rise. And I was like, oh, cool. We got to do something together early on, which is really fun. So yeah, he's great.
No, so again, with Mark Spears, like for me, I came across his work through obviously Beyond Wednesdays, like, and I love the Monster series. I think his artwork's great. And I had had the honor of, like, I was on Brian's show, and then afterwards he just came and hung out in backstage, and I got to talk to him. And I was kind of like literally blown away, like starstruck, to be honest.
It's so funny too, because like I think it's just something that my buddy John, Heroes Are Born, said, like, Mark Spears is one of us, and it's true, because like you saw him on the show, like hanging out afterwards, he's just like just a dude shooting the shit, guy who used to owned a comic shop, and he's been doing art for 25 years, like he's just a dude, and it's like it's awesome to see a dude who in a year has just found that bolt of lightning and just gone with it. And it's just like, it's so crazy, because like, he was on the show the other night and showing like photos of like, was the Huntsville Expo in 2024 and 2022, and it's like there's nobody there. He's like, I'm just sitting there by myself. And then it's 2 years later, and he's like, they sell over 350,000 blind bags, like, for this Monsters of the Wolf book. And it's like, what? Like, that is such a massive number compared to like, and being a guy who's been in and at publisher side and have seen stuff, I'm like, that's an insane number. Like, that doesn't happen for guys who have only been in the industry for a year. So it's awesome to see. I only want more success for him, and I'm stoked to kind of see it. And then the guy gets to work with Todd McFarlane on Spawn 77. It's
Spawn
like
77. I can't wait,
dude,
honestly.
It's
I literally can't wait. And
it's so fun.
It like, obviously meeting him backstage and stuff, it was like he's really like candid about the whole comic book industry. So it's like pretty much wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was taken back from it. But I'd really love to facilitate him coming here to the UK and doing like a signing, because I think it would be
be really tough, because Mark doesn't fly. Which is a funny counterpoint, because I want to get Pete Carroll to come to the States, and Pete doesn't fly. So I think what we need to figure out here, James, is that we need to do the transatlantic comic cruise.
Yeah.
And so we go here to here,
cruise from there.
Let's do it. We'll call it the Not the Titanic 2026 tour, and we'll just go back. We'll put all these comic creators on a boat, and we'll just shuttle them back and forth. Like, that'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand where they're coming from, because I'm terrified of flying, but I will do it. But I have to have like a drink, because I'm so scared of not being in control of my fate. Like, as in, like, if I'm driving a car, I control my fate. I know anything can happen, but I'm like, if a plane's going down, I ain't doing anything to survive that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's my biggest fear. Is that, but it's one of those things. But I completely understand where they're coming from.
Absolutely, yeah.
But so you've recently started this past couple of months. You started doing a YouTube channel now as well. Are you finding that as a way to incorporate your business with like social media and trying to get people in through that way, or is it just because you wanted to?
I kind of wanted to do it just to do it, right? And then I've realized, because I haven't done a video in 3 weeks, like how hard it is to be on a schedule to get yourself to do it. So shout out to all you guys who do consistently make videos. Like, I'm so impressed. But yeah, it's a thing that I was like, oh, let me do this. And it first started with that because I had the CGC or the PSA books. I was like, oh, let me do this. Let me show what this looks like. And so then I was like, okay, let me kind of roll with this. And I've honestly, it's been a little hectic around the house the past month or so, but I do need to get back in the habit of doing it. And it's just really, I want to be, just my authentic self and myself. And it's like, these are the cool things that I'm into and find or whatever. Like, there's so many other people who do great jobs of, doing deeper dives into bigger things, you know, whether it's, you know, David Harper or, you know, Swaggle House, like everyone's got their different stuff, you know, and I get a lot of my feed and stuff by being on the Beyond Wednesday show, but I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
like I want to show cool stuff. I want to crack packs. I want to like do that stuff. And so I think it's going to be a lot more of that stuff. Just be like, hey, like what's a cool thing I found this week or whatever. Like, you know, our buddy Carter Mercenot, he's been doing, you know, we talked about the other night, but he's been doing, you know, his pickups for, you know, decade plus, and just showing like, hey, here's the cool stuff I bought this week. And it's like, it's so awesome to see. And, you know, I find a lot of people really they want to see what else you're into. You know, it's, I'm not just into comics. Like I'm into a plethora of other things I think we talked about earlier. And it's like, you know, these are all things I love in my life. And I want to be able to share them with folks.
Yeah. And, you know, you mentioned that how many, you know, people that you've got into contact through this industry. Like you could have any of those people come on and talk about stuff with you. That would be pretty cool as well. But yeah, how are you in terms of like your business? What do you kind of feel like is the biggest challenge at the moment for your comic book store?
It is. Being a one-man band is really tough, right? So it's just me. You know, I don't really have anyone else. So if I do a video, thankfully my wife has helped out a couple of times to edit the stuff. You know, I pack and ship all my own stuff. I do everything else. I'm just a guy right now, and so it's really, you know, you do a lot of stuff. It's hard to do all the things in one day, and then also try to have a life and have work and all this stuff. Try to do it all together, you know, and that's the hardest bit. And then also, you know, just trying to find things that people resonate with, you know, because I'll do a book or something like that, and like, oh man, like nobody cared, you know, trying to find a bit of that, like how to get people to see when you raise your flag, like, oh, check out this cool thing I made, and then like no one notices because there's 400 other cool things at San Diego Comic-Con. There's like, you know, 500, or I think it was this year was like 600 different variants or whatever. It's like, how do you stand out? And so, you know, that is the hardest part. And I'm still trying to crack that code because I'm also, dude, I'm old. I'm not internet savvy. I don't update my Instagram enough. I don't do TikToks and shorts and all that stuff. And, you know, I need to get better in that aspect to get my stuff out. And I do lean on the guys at Beyond Wednesdays as being an outlet every week that we get to talk about the stuff that we're doing, which has been great. And it works out from time to time, you know, like we've had a couple really good, you know, we did a launch. We did this Harley Elvira cover with Sveta, and you know, it sold out like the night of, and it was like, that's crazy. Like people really went bananas for it, you know. And it's like, cool, great. We had a good hit. How can we find the next one? And so I'm like nervous about every next one. I'm like kind of nervous about. I'm like, well, it's not going to be as good as the last one, or it'll never be good as this one. So, but I believe in everyone that we do, even if it doesn't resonate and doesn't hit with collectors, and they're like, oh, I don't really like that cover, I don't want to get it. Like, awesome, I tried, and I'm going to continue to keep trying to do cool stuff. And that's, you know, that's where it all really goes, you know.
No, you guys are, I want to say you guys are killing it with, you know, with your exclusive variants and stuff. That Elvira and Harley Quinn one looked phenomenal, and obviously, like you said, it sold out very quickly. And you know, you're not paying through the nose for it. Was it $20? Was it for like the around $20?
That's the other thing too. Like, we made sure we wanted to keep the costs kind of low for the people. And again, it's like, you know, that's the community portion. Like you know, we could have easily charged, you know, up the nose and say, hey, it's Sveta. We know Sveta's hot. It could have been like, you know, $30 for the trade dress and $100 for the medals. And, you know, I think we wanted to kind of, you know, Brian, Leg, Hood, Yee, like they know they're the folks who come in to watch the show every week, and it's like, we want to take care of them. We want to give them an opportunity to get something really cheap. And look, dude, like people bought multiples and they're selling on eBay. That's awesome. Thank you for your time. Like, thank you for sharing with us, and you get to go and sell it for a premium. That's awesome, because you know what, like, you're giving us like 3 hours a night every week, you know, at the minimum, you know, like you're watching people or other shows, or you're watching it at, you know, 2x speed on YouTube the day after, whatever. But like, you're spending time with us, and like, this is a way to kind of give you guys something back. And like, we got to make a cool thing, you know, like I'm only keeping like a set for myself, you know, and that's it. And I didn't expect to sell out of my allotment, but I did. I was like, oh my God, like that's awesome. And, you know, people are going to be, I can't wait to see them in hand. Like they're going to ship them out, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of posts with people on Instagram and stuff like that, putting them up to show off. They're
Yeah.
really beautiful covers, to be fair.
It's also a tough thing too. I do hate the fact that the timing is here, because it's like that book comes out the same week as New York Comic Con, same as the Transformers, same as the Mark Spears Monsters of the Wolf, same week. It's like all this stuff comes out that same week of New York. Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah. Cora Banner said that he's happy to help you if it's wanted. So you've got it. You've got to volunteer. You know how that goes. That story.
Hell yeah.
Volunteer there. But no, we've got it's got someone new in the chat. We've got Rowdy Royals in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us.
What's up, Rowdy?
And then we got Walker Joe has said that a Carroll and Spears cruise he's in.
Hell yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. And we've got ABZ Comics in the house. Thank you so much for joining us. But in terms of then with we got one question as well in terms of, well, no, not a question, sorry, but Coroban has said that the eBay Live thing became a real thing because of the Battle Beast packs. That's exactly how I felt. I felt that you were like instrumental in that platform for live selling on eBay really taking off, especially for comic books, because I really wasn't like, especially in the UK here, eBay Live really didn't exist here. It's only just recently come on for us.
I think so. Yeah.
But
I mean, it's still very early days. You know, it's still technically in its beta phase. You know, they're trying to build things out, and you know, eBay is playing catch up, you know, to Whatnot, who, you know, had a 3-year head start on them. But the team over there is really, like, this past year has been a big transformational one, and I'm really glad that we got to have those packs as being a big piece of that. So I'm hoping that the Transformers packs and, you know, honestly, the launch of the Mark Spears bags, all that stuff at the same time, it's going to be such a big thing. So, you know, it's going to make, I think in a couple of weeks we're going to have it's going to be a big week.
Yeah. So in terms of then with, you know, live selling on eBay and whatnot and stuff like that, how can you make that better for comic book fans than going to a comic book shop?
That's a great question. I don't know if it can be, right? Because it's, you know, the auction format definitely changes things, right? Because, you know, it's highest bidder is going to get the book, you know, versus, you know, if you're going to the shop and you've got a bunch of different ones, and there are different sellers who do, like, hey, like Rabbit Comics, they'll do like the weekly comics are on sale, and so you can, you know, they put them up for auction. You get, here's all 5 different variants or whatever, and so it's a really cool thing. Like, you know, I tend to bring in, you know, kind of more kind of custom, like, you know, slabs and signed stuff and really kind of unique stuff, like versus a shop like, well, I don't carry everything, right? Like my buddy Billy at Economics and Comics, like, he does, his shop has got everything and he offers every book. Like, I don't have the bandwidth to be able to order every single book for every single person, you know, and it's so hard. So I try to focus in on this, like, artists I like or different stuff, or finding ways to kind of burn and turn through. If I buy a collection, it's like, oh, cool. Like, let me offer this up now to these guys and stuff. And so I think there's definitely different stuff. I wish, honestly, like, I managed a record store from like 94 to 2000 when I moved to Los Angeles, and like, I loved that. I love the space. Like, I've always loved comic shops and having a community and people who come in, your regulars, all that stuff too. So I've been trying to kind of carry that through with when I do like live streams. I kind of treat it that way. So when, you know, folks come through, you know, like Joe's one of my, you know, longtime viewers, customers and stuff. And so like, I try to make sure that they're getting a same hangout and vibe with me. So like, when I do a show, like I have my little, this is my frame at the very top. So you see me at the top of the frame, then you'll see the book, and I'm talking to you through it. I want you to be able to see me and connect with me as I am doing this, because like, I want to be hanging out with you. And so I try to comment with the chat as much as I can. I try to like bring as much of them into the show. And, you know, if they're looking for something, like, I'll take requests. Like, you know, I was a radio DJ for a couple of years too. So, you know, talking through a microphone to nobody is something that I'm very used to. So
you've got practice in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk to myself a lot in the car as well, which is funny. But you know, like I want it to feel, I want that community vibe to kind of still feel there, even though it's not stuff. So it's never going to be the same as going to a comic shop and getting your weekly books and you know, when you get that random stuff that comes through collection wise. But like it is I'm trying to give as much of that experience as I can, and I'm still trying to refine. Like I actually, honestly, like after we get done with the interview, like I'm stripping down my whole setup and I'm going to rebuild it because I want to kind of do all my technical side. You can't see it here, but like lights and cameras and all that, everything, I'm going to redo it and kind of like reposition everything. Just because I want to have a different vibe and different feel with what I've got here. So it's not working to what I want to do.
How are you finding like the technology and like integration of auction selling in like on essentially, are you doing it on a phone or are you doing it on an iPad or what are you doing it on?
So I it probably comes from my days working in like video production, but I'm a little like picky. I want to have like a good camera and a good setup. And so like I like my presentation to be better than just on the phone. Even the phone is great and stuff, but like I want it to come through. So like I've got, you know, I got a DSLR main camera, I got an Elgato, you know, overhead, I've got Elgato, you know, lights here. I got a full, you know, I got microphones like Rodecaster Pros. I want it to all be as good as I can so that I can give you the best from me out, you know, like I want that to be what you come across. So like this, I'm going to redo all the back stuff hopefully this weekend or next. And, you know, try to dial it in.
Yeah. No, have you got any like, examples of any crazy lives where like something crazy's happened to it? I remember actually, I think like Swaggle House Comics was live. Brian was on the channel, and that they went and watched you on eBay live.
Yeah,
and
I think they were doing that.
As soon as they went in, you must have had it on a separate screen, and
I was watching them on the other one because they were. I think it was when I was doing something with like. They were talking about PSA books, and I think I was running a PSA auction of a book, and they were talking live about pricing or whatever. And that was like I was trying to communicate to them because I use a little closed caption thing so you can see my text. And so I was trying to say, hey guys, by the way, like this is what you like. If I was trying to answer them being on their show, even though it was on my show, and say, well, you need to think about this in terms of like why this pricing is different than what you would see on GPA. Because I'm watching them pull up GPA and stuff. I'm like, that's not the right analysis. You should do this. So it's that stuff was really fun. And I wish there was more of that stuff. I think the funnest stuff for me, honestly, like has come from like the mystery pack stuff, like these packs, like being able to open up like cool books and signed books and rare books on stream has been super fun. I think with the Transformers packs, like we've got some amazing sketch covers that I think people are going to be like, you know, people who've seen some of the ones are like, wait, who is this? What is this? Like, you know, there's a guy named Junker73, Fabian Gonzalez, who I follow on Instagram, and I've been following for years because I love his Transformer stuff. And I was like, hey, dude, would you want to do a couple sketch covers? And he did 4 sketch covers that I think are absolutely amazing. And when you look at them, like compared to the ones I got at conventions, like these are full color, like they are amazing. You're just like, this is steps above what you're getting at a con sketch. And I'm glad to be able to include like some really cool stuff in there. So I think it's going to be, I watch streams too. Like I'll watch people when they're cracking these ones because I want to see, like, I watch so many of the Battle East ones. I record them on my other phone just to like, so I can pull clips, and I was like, send them to other people. I'm like, and those are the things where, you know, that's one of the big things we talk about with the eBay live team about like the marketing and getting out new buyers is like comic sales by itself. It doesn't have like, there isn't like the boom, here's the big thing that happened, right? Sports cards is the biggest live selling category amongst eBay, whatnot, whatever. That is the jam. Sports card breaks.
Do you think Pokemon is gaining ground?
Oh, Pokemon, yes. Sports cards number 1. Pokemon is probably up there in like number 2. It is breaks. It's amazing. Like I'll go on a platform and you're like, oh, there's 20 sellers live right now who are cracking packs or doing stuff. It's awesome. And so comics doesn't have that like instant hit factor. It's like, oh, cool. Here's Sick Tick number 43. This is your A cover. Bid on it. $3, good, go on the next one. Like, but if you open up something and someone gets a hit, like, dude, watching a couple of those guys like crack those 1 in 1,000 gold foils of those Batman packs was so cool. I'm like, oh my god, that's massive, like,
Yeah.
You want to see people get big stuff, and that brings in new buyers and people get excited. And then I think we got to find a way to kind of build more of that, and I think we're going to see it. Like, I'm the DCKO blind bags, the Mark Spears Monsters blind bags, those are going to be big, and I think that's going to bring a lot of fun. And then that's the other thing too, is like, I want to make these things fun, and I think that type of product is going to be really entertaining. I think if you're going to shop and you get those books, it's going to be awesome too. But I think like on a live platform where people are all grouped around watching a show, and if you get it for a couple bucks and you get a big hit, that's awesome. Like, I don't necessarily think like every pack needs to go for like crazy amounts of money. I think with the original Battle Beast packs, if like if you bought a Battle Beast pack in a shop for $4 and then you hit like a 1 in 100 ratio or something like that, that's awesome. That's the hit you want to get. Like buying a pack of magic cards, you can buy a pack of magic cards for $5, and then if you hit like a chase rare, like, oh, that's awesome. Like, you got that dopamine hit. Like, I think there needs we got to find a way to find a balance within the community and the industry for that. But I think this will be a thing that could help bring more eyeballs in the space.
Well, that's what actually happened with me. I got like the $4 Battle Beast pack, and I got the 1 in 100 in the one pack that I had.
Yeah, dude, so awesome, right?
Yeah. I actually just bought one pack just to try it out, and I opened it live, and I didn't even notice the 1 in 100 because I didn't know anything about them, and I was like, oh damn, so then I bought like 20 more packs.
That's how it goes. Yeah,
and didn't get another 1 in 100, but yeah, that's
oh my gosh. And those ones, and what I loved about those Battle Beast ones too is like, Robert and those guys put in the Marvel team up, and then they put in the Invincible 19 reprint, and it's like you got these really secret hits that were like, those are super fun. It's like, that's the jam.
They really set the world alight for comic book blind bags.
And you set the bar too, like, like, hey, you got to match what we're doing, and I think that was that came across. So
yeah, and you can kind of see the amount of effort and love that Mark Spears is putting into his ones, and you just kind of think, like, I'm buying like £100 worth, which like I'm really excited about opening them.
Yeah, he has Mark, having done like the trading cards himself in his Kickstarters and stuff, like, he gets that space, and he was very, in all the early conversations we had with him, like, he was always just like, hey man, like, this is what I'm thinking. I want there to be so much fun. I want these to be something that, like, if you didn't open them for 6 months, you're gonna be like, man, am I missing out on something? Is there something big in there that I'm missing out on? And like, he's got a couple of secrets I think they'll announce like this week or next week as it leads into it, that are just like, oh, that's a great idea, like really cool stuff. And then when they added the Night of the Living Dead covers, I'm like, that's such a great idea to add. Like, here's a cool cover from like a property that he's friends with and he's done covers for. Like, such a smart thing. So yeah, good. I'm beyond excited to open those things up.
So with all your experience and your reputation, Metal Elf Collectibles has basically asked, oh no, not asked, sorry, but he said he's applied for eBay Live but never got a response.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody who was looking to start at live stream selling?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, so eBay, again, like I mentioned earlier, it's still kind of in the beta phases, so they're not opening up full bore to sellers, because they're still trying to build they got to build the buyers, build the sellers, and it's like that chicken and the egg type situation. And trying to get more people in, if you keep adding sellers, you're going to thin the base of the buyers who are there. So it's something that I know the team's internally working on, and they're always trying to find the ways to do it. So if you are a seller, the things I would say, if you're looking to get on eBay Live, two things. One is make sure your eBay core account, like what you're selling on eBay, is good, and you're in good standing, you're doing good business through there. I know that is something they always take into consideration. And then also try to figure out how to sell on Whatnot, show that, like, hey, like, I'm on Whatnot and I'm bringing in this much money or this many buyers and sellers, and like use that as a way to prove in. And so once they do start opening up to more sellers, then you can kind of like get in that way. and honestly, it doesn't hurt. Like I haven't sold on Whatnot in over a year, and I'm like, oh, I should probably do a cup show from time to time just to kind of like scratch it. Like I'll go on there and buy stuff every once in a while, but I'm like, oh, I should go on there because there's other buyers and there's different buyers too on the other platforms. So you get guys who are looking for certain things and on one and then the other. So I think it's really worth building your base on that and then carry it over to live when you get the call up.
No, definitely. That's some great advice there for you there, Metal Elf, if you're still listening. So we kind of talked about it with your YouTube channel, and we just talked about with Swag and Brian, basically watching you sell PSA comics on eBay Live. You've been, what I would probably say for me is I was kind of on the fence with PSA in terms of I really wasn't a fan of their labels. But until your video came out, because your video was like the first video that I saw on YouTube, like high definition, looking at and comparing to CGC slabs.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Which I've got to say, Clutch, it was for like I think it was like your first or second video.
It was the first one.
It was phenomenal. Like honestly, it was really good. It was straight to the point. It was showing off, and the picture quality and sound was really good. So you should be really proud of yourself for that. And
thanks.
You really convinced me that I want to send some books off to PSA. Purely from watching your video. I know that everyone else was talking about it at the time, but it was your video that was kind of influential, and I think probably changed a lot of people's minds because
I hope so.
I mean, I've since picked up. I've got like the prototype, and I just can't believe how heavy. Like this, it's so much more heavier than a CGC slab, but it feels like this feels like I could throw this from a building and it wouldn't break. Do you know what I mean? It's like
you can absolutely hit somebody with that. Yeah,
it feels industrially sound. Like I can't explain how like secure your comic feels in it. So, go on, sir.
I was gonna say it was really cool to do it, and being able to, I got really lucky that they invited me to kind of submit stuff early, and because of my relationship with eBay and eBay's relationship with PSA, and so I was like, let me. I sent in some copies, and I did a submission. It was all before New York Comic Con, and I really realized that like I had that moment, and because I've been thinking about doing the videos and stuff or whatever, but like when I got them in, I wouldn't pick them up from PSA because luckily they're 45 minutes down the road, and I was like, I have a moment, and and this is something that, and I'm sure everyone else gets this, but you have that little like that hesitation where I'm like, it's not going to be good. I don't want to do it because it's not going to be right or whatever. I was like, you have a probably 3 days before other people pick their stuff up, because you picked your stuff up before anybody else. Because before San Diego Comic-Con, no one else has these. You were the guy. Suck it up, get over your fear, and shoot a video. And it's one of the things, because I'm like overwhelmed. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be good? And quality and whatever. And I was like, just what your setup it is, what you can do. My aesthetic is very simple, and I don't know if it'll ever get better, but I just like that it's very just basic. It's just me. I'm a very simple dude. And so I just put him down there and I said, look, what do I want to know as a person who's submitting them? And as for me, that's what it was like. I want to see this because look, I love CGC. I've been doing CGC for so long. I never really dabbled with CBCS or PGX or whatever. I've got friends who work for CGC. Like I'm very much like a guy. Like I've been to the offices. I've toured the whole place. Like we've very close. But I'm like also the guy who like I know that there's other stuff out there because I buy cards, and so I collect BPSs. I got CGCs. I got PSAs, and like so I know like in the space PSA and the card space is like they are the guy. They're the big dog. And so let me see what they're going to do with this space. And I heard everyone talk about it, because those Kith books, and the preview ones. And it's like, okay, I've seen them. They're like, they're too heavy or whatever. I'm like, all right, like this is my chance to get them. And I'm very familiar with the books that I sent into, which is the other part that I was like very cognizant of what I was doing. And people are like, well, you got tens. I'm like, yeah, I know, because I get 9/9s and 10s of these books when I submit them to CGC. And I knew I'm going to submit these books knowing that I'm going to get what I'm going to get back, and then being able to do the comparison side to side, like for the second video. And it was that thing was like, I'm sure you've done this too, where like you do a video and then you realize afterward, like, oh, I should have asked that question, or I should have done that. Like, so I got to do a follow-up. And so I literally, I went on Amazon, I ordered a little caliper to do measurements so I can measure how the width is and do all that stuff. And I was like, had my scale, like, okay, this is what the scale shows. And I wanted to do that side by side, like, look, this is what we're seeing. And honestly, like I really, I was like you at first too. Like I thought, like the label, the red, the white, it's like so sparse, and it's
the spacing that is just so much white space on it, but it kind of grows on you.
It does, like, and that's the thing. It's in it because it's so new. You're not used to it. But then also, like, I think about it too, and guys who collect PSA cards, that's what they're used to. They're like, oh, I'm used to this, and so like it looks exactly like a PSA card, but it's a bigger thing, and so I'm like, oh, it's not even really going to be that big of an issue in the long term. And so then you see like what they do with the gold label, and like, oh, that foil on there is so cool looking. And it's like, oh, that's really neat, you know? So, getting to show that stuff side by side, like, this is really cool. This is really neat. And I like them. I'd say 99% of my business is still CGC books that I sell and submit. But like, as stuff gets closer, when they've been talking about opening up the signature series stuff for PSA soon. So I expect that to be a big thing. And then authenticating the signatures and grading signatures. I assume that because that's all the stuff they do for the card space, which I've got a bunch of those cards. So it's like, I know that space. So I'm going to dabble into it, and I'm going to see what they've got. And I think for New York Comic Con, we'll be hearing a lot more. I'm doing at LA Comic Con next week. I'm on a panel with them. So I think they're going to talk about some stuff that's coming up.
I've got a screenshot here. You at September 28th, meeting room 405. Was that what LA Comic Con is it or something?
Yeah, LA Comic Con here at the convention center.
So you're going to be what are you doing, a talk, are you, or is it just basically like
they asked me on as a fan who has done stuff. They wanted they're like, hey, you're in town, I was like, I'm going to be at the show, and they're like, do you want to come on? I was like, sure, like, so easy. So Danny over at PSA was like, hey, let's pop you on. I said sure, and I was like, look, I'm going to be just me. I'm going to give you my raw thoughts. He's like, that's what we want. It's like there's no like shilling, there's no whatever. I'm like, hey, dude, like they won me around. Like those cases, like I really like the heavy cases. Like it feels like it's a good feel. It's like it's different because you're not used to it, but it's like it feels like I said, like it feels like this feels like a thing, an artifact. Not just a book and a holder, but this feels like a whole one thing. So.
Yeah, but it's like Richard said here, like they can't ship as many. So have I heard like, I don't know how many CGC can send in a batch in the shipping, but is it like
CGC's got different box size. I think their biggest box they ship is like they can do like 30 slabs in a box now because they've got their new like bubble shippers. I don't know how because I'm local, so I just pick up from PSA. So I don't know what it is, and it is true too. Like if I'm shipping a single slab in a box, it's like 1 point. I just shipped a bunch yesterday, so it's like 1 pound, 11 or 12 ounces or whatever. If I just do a single CGC book, but this one they're going to be 2 pounds. So you're going to balance that out, but it's also like, it's a couple pound extra, I don't think it's too crazy. And, guys like myself, if I'm doing a show and I sell 50 CGC slabs, like, it's going to balance out. Like I do free shipping anyway. So I eat costs on stuff all the time. So I don't do free shipping, but like free shipping bundled or whatever. So it's like $7 combined shipping. If you spend, $1,000 or you spend $20, it's like, I don't know. Yeah. Like it's, I don't think to me, the weight issue is not that big of a deal. It's not a deal.
No, I think when you think about it in the long run, in terms of the protection it provides to your comic book, I'd rather have that, to be fair. We've had a couple of people join late, but we've got Mike Cecilia. Thank you so much for joining us. Mike? Great guy. He's apologizing for being late. We've got Powney. Panny, I think he's a customer.
Manny, what's up,
here in
dude?
the UK. He's a regular on Beyond Wednesdays. And we've got Pete from Triple G Comics. Thank you so much. He's fantastic UK
What's up,
YouTuber
Pete?
as
We're
well.
supposed to do an episode at some point.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so PSA, I kind of feel like the times are changing now with grading. And there was a big, I kind of feel like with the last, I don't know, people are started to get away from grading as much as they were during the pandemic. Because I feel like a lot of stuff was getting submitted into CGC,
Yeah.
and there was quality control issues and the likes of that. But I kind of feel like it's probably a good time for a competitor to come on the scene. And they're quite this, Mickey from Swaggle House Comics, Manu, the 9.9 newsstand, regularly bringing attention as well to
good.
PSA, which I think is good. But they're also not like biased or anything like that, so, which I think is great, because they will, if there's problems, they'll say it, and they still, Manu bought a CGC book like yesterday or the day before, so I think it's a good problem to have for CGC comic collectors, because I've got like 200 slabs, CGC books, and like the thought of sending off to another company but having different colored, and because these don't actually fit in the graded comic book bins. I don't know if the slab has changed from this prototype doesn't fit in there.
No, dude, I in the video you stack them, and they actually interlock too. They have like the ridges are kind of like dialed, so it's pretty much the exact same size. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay, that's fine then. Yeah, that's cool. That's fine.
Yeah. But so it's like, they've made changes since then, but they're and that was the thing I was trying to see if I had one near me, but like it was really stoked to see that, like, hey, like they, if you put them on there, like it kind of like the ridges kind of interlock together, so it's like, it's the same size, they fit the same, got the same sleeves and stuff, so yeah.
No, and it's like you said, you knew that you had 3 days before people were going to get hold of their books, and you probably know this already, but in this YouTube game, it's kind of, you have to catch the zeitgeist. So if you'd put although your video is great, if you'd put that out after other channels had put it out, it probably wouldn't have got the same traction that it would have got.
It also helped too, I think, also because like it was I was talking to my wife about it. She's like, I was like, babe, I got so many views. She's like, well, it's because it was your first video. They put you out in the algorithm into people's feeds a little more in your first video. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. That's really cool. And I was like,
I don't think it was that. I don't think it's because it's your first video. I think it's because it's such a great. It was the first one out there in terms of not your video, but like for PSA Comics.
Yeah, first one for absolutely, and that's exactly. Like, I also like truthfully, and I'll say this with a straight face, but like I was like, I have to beat Mickey. Well, I have to get a video out before Swag, hands down.
I regularly say this to my wife, Gemma. I said, like, damn, Swag's put out a video. Something's happened, and then like an hour later, Swag's put out a video, and I was like, I don't know how anyone can compete with that guy. Because he's just like. You just can't. He's straight on it. He's literally like, I don't know what news outlet you have there, but we have like BBC or Sky News here. So it's like straight away, it's breaking news. It's out on Mickey's channel.
It's one of those things where like I've thought, I'm like, God, how do you? I know he's busy. I know he does so much other stuff, but like, how does he like get time enough to go in there and do a thing? Like, God damn.
Yeah, he's really good at what he does, to be honest.
He is great. I love Mickey.
We've got so Rich, who is my local comic shop, he has asked, can you ask eBay why he's still banned? So I want to say like a year or so ago, his eBay account got banned because Transformers IDW cover, like the Beatles cover, was like a homage. I think it was IDW.
Yeah, sounds about right.
he was selling that on eBay, and it got the listing got taken down for like copyright for like the Beatles, and they
So weird.
automatically just banned him, so he couldn't get his account back.
What?
And
That's insane.
Brian knows about it as well. It's actually how I became aware of Untold Comics, which is now like my favorite comic book shop. But yeah, so I don't know if there's any way you can help him get it back. I don't know, but he's kind of started a new one now, so I don't know if he wants his old one back. But
yeah, start the new one. So Phil, we've talked about this before on the show, but like it is so like, imagine eBay, right? Our comic space is this, right?
Tiny, yeah.
Tiny. It's actually probably smaller than this. Then everything else is this big, right? So comics we're a small category within the overall thing. And, and then you look at like, we're talking about, months ago about the fame stuff and like, the copyright stuff and all these things. And so you realize like eBay has this system, and I dealt with it when I was at Skybound. It's called the VRO, the verified something. It's like it is as an IP owner, you have to register with VRO to be able to claim certain things, right? And so if I saw someone doing like a bootleg Walking Dead thing, I'd be like, hey, like that's bootleg, and I would have to send in a form. And so I have to have a form, I have to fill it out, I have to email it to VRO, then they take a day to process it, whatever. Sometimes the auction's already done. So there's no like quick and easy way for IP holders to manage stuff. But then on the flip side, as a person who is, a seller selling a thing, the system is even more labyrinthian, to kind of go back and say, hey guys, like I need to get, unbanned or whatever. And it's very similar to how, whether you're on, Steam or, Xbox or PlayStation or whatever, and you get your account banned for something you didn't do or whatever. Like it is crazy how the things are set up. It's like, no, you're done, you're out, and it's like, oh, that sucks. And so really terrible for you, for them to have gotten caught up in that. And it sucks because like that is a legit, it's an homage cover. You're not showing the Beatles. It's an homage to, to the Abbey Road cover, right? I think that's the one it was, right? Or was it?
Yeah, I can't remember what it is. It's like the one where there's loads of different characters on the front of the cover.
Oh yeah, Sgt. Pepper's. Yeah. So yeah, and it sucks too. And I wish there was, and again, it's like one of those things. I wish there was like easy way to get a hold of people, but you also, as we are in a situation, the world situation with corporations where it's like, all right, cool. I'm going to sit in the queue for 4 hours waiting for someone to reply who has no idea what I'm talking about. And they're like, oh, you're going to give them this is what this issue is, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I'm getting paid, I'm at a call center in Bangladesh getting paid, 20 cents a day. And it's like, how do you get beyond stuff? And we're in a pretty terrible dystopian nightmare when it comes to the idea of customer services across board. And guess what? AI is going to make it even better, right? You're not even going to be able to talk to a person. You're just going to have to figure out, like, you have to talk to your nephew to say, hey, can you help me write like some sort of like JavaScript code that I can use to kind of crack the brain of the AI to get, back in. It's like, no, you are right. Your account is full and you got zero seller fees. So, give me that bonus.
Pete said from Triple G Comics, it says, don't get me started on eBay. They know they're selling fake comic art and don't give a shit. I mean, Pete has been stung a few times selling. No, not selling himself, but he bought some comic art.
Buying stuff. Yeah, Pete had found like those Otley sketches and then like the Jim Lee sketches and Liefeld stuff. And I brought that to the folks that I work with, on my side. And of course, like I work in eBay Live, which is separate than the core. But I was like, hey, like, can you, please send this to somebody else? And there again, like that stuff falls into the Vero thing where it's like they put up their own roadblocks because or else they'd be inundated with stuff. So it has to come in from the seller, and that stuff's terrible. And it's like, and we had Ryan Otley like emailing. I was like, look, this is the post from Ryan Otley saying this sketch is fake. This is stolen from my thing. And it's like, they're like, okay, cool. And they took that one down, but didn't take anything else down. Didn't take down the guy's site. Then, the other guy is like, I'm selling an homage cover for Transformers, and like I get my whole site taken down. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't make sense. And the shitty thing was, we all know it's like it's never gonna make sense. You just want your name back, dude. Lost 10,000 plus.
Yeah, I think that's what they
That's
did.
hard. That's really hard, dude.
And I feel for him. But
I
you
don't
know,
hit up James after, like, put us in touch. Like, I don't think there's I'm gonna say there's probably zero that I can do, but I would love to kind of see if we can find a way to help out. Like, I don't think I can, but that just breaks my heart,
yeah. No, he's on Instagram, so I'll get him to hit you up. That'd be
great.
Pete is asking as well about your Skeletor mask in the background. Is that a custom one? Is it?
So this was this was actually like I bought this at Designer Con, and it's just like I think it's just like a Halloween skull that a guy like painted up to be look like Skeletor, and he put like a little felt thing on there. So cool. Yeah, I've had this for like 15 years, and it's my favorite thing. He-Man.
This kind of brings me on to my last line of questioning, which is pretty much what else do you collect? So we can see in the background there you've got like a lot of different things.
Yeah.
We got some Lego.
Yeah, so I used to be a really big Lego guy. Then I had to stop because I was like literally spending so much money and not putting anything together. But Red Hood from the Beyond Wednesday show gave this to me as a gift last week. I collect a lot of toys. So I've got, there's vinyl toys like the Attack Peter. That's the Attack Peter creature from the Black Lagoon. That's a Deadly Class prototype that we did years ago. I've got Transformer stuff. I got vinyl figure. That's a Apocalypse figure. G.I. Joe stuff. Transformers. That's a Magic the Gathering Chaos Orb deck box. That's really cool. The Jim Lee sketch toy here. There's a He-Man right here. You can't really see it, but He-Man original Battle Cat like right there in box. It's a lot of stuff. I do trading cards, toys, like pretty much like anything I like. I just like, oh, that's cool, I'll buy it, And so my wife, she likes things to be nice and tidy, and so in the house it's a very clean, not a lot of clutter.
Except for that room.
Well, the room is now this room, and so this is actually the garage. So we're completely separate from the house, and so I get to have all my stuff in here. But inside the house, like we have like framed art and stuff. Like a lot of the artwork in the house and stuff that I've picked up over the years, whether it's original comic art or posters and prints, and that's all in the house, and it looks pretty nice. So yeah,
cool. We talked about it before we went live, but today I know you're a big Magic the Gathering fan. I've previously before the Final Fantasy set, I used to basically think that Magic the Gathering was probably like the geekiest thing out there for collectors, but now that they've took on these great licenses like Marvel and Squaresoft and stuff like that, I bought the Final Fantasy booster box, got this for a great deal. I'm unsure whether to open these or not, but so that today the Spider-Man set came out, which looks incredible. And I know that on one of your videos, I think it was one of you, I can't remember if I saw it on Beyond Wednesdays or if I saw it on like your channel, but you at San Diego Comic-Con, you were there and were given some free.
Oh yeah, they had like the little like intro decks with each of the like 5 different characters.
Yeah.
So I'm big nerd on my end. Yeah.
So what is it about Magic the Gathering that you like that drew you in? Is it like because the artwork is phenomenal, and we know for upcoming action figures, Mark Spears has got a couple of cards coming out.
Yeah.
Wow. Like the artwork is just
it's so cool, man. Like I started playing Magic in like 1994 when Unlimited came out. So like the first limited sets, Alpha Beta Unlimited. And so, we played D&D in high school and stuff. And I just like the game, it's a really cool, fun game. Like I'm a board game guy. I like games and stuff, but like the card game was like, oh, this is awesome. And then you got the collectible part because I collected sports cards as a kid, and so like, oh, there's rare cards and cards that are worth money and whatever. So like all that collector part gets all my juices going. And then, and now it's been 30 something years, and it's like, oh yeah, this game is it's at this really weird phase right now because they've done this, Universes Beyond, where previously everything was just in the Magic the Gathering universe, like that. This is our universe, these are all our stories or whatever. And then they started doing like Walking Dead set, and you're like, wait, what? There's a Walking Dead Magic card? That's crazy. And then they did like, let's do Doctor Who, and they did Warhammer 40K, they did a SpongeBob set, and they did these things, and then you're like, what the heck? And so now it's kind of fascinating. And there's inside the Magic fan world, there's a lot of like conflicting sides of just like, we want traditional Magic where it's just fantasy stuff and it's just in that world, versus the Universes Beyond, which is like we're licensing and bringing in all this stuff. And it's a really interesting thing because like, at the end of the day, I'm assuming that Hasbro and Wizard of the Coast see Magic the Gathering not as its own thing. It's like Magic the Gathering is not just its own game, but it's a game system that you could put all this other stuff in. And that's where we're at now, where it's like, it is now in this, like, it's evolving like another Pokemon level up, where it's like, okay, cool. Like the game is now bigger than just, the sword and sorcery stuff of like, Chandra and Jace and all that stuff and Liliana. Now it's like, you're going to have Rick from The Walking Dead and fighting, Spider-Man, who's also going to fight, the Tyranids and whatever. And you're just like, what the heck? And then the Doctor Who's going to come in. And it's like, I don't know. Like it's kind of a cool space where it's like merging all the cool, fun fandoms in there. It's overwhelming because it is so much, which is the other crazy thing too. It's like, and it's expensive. Like those Final Fantasy cards are like crazy expensive. Like the collector boxes, which has been something that they put out, they started putting out like 6-7 years ago, but now they are, the Final Fantasy collector box, when it came out, it was like, $350-$400 for the box. And then in the first weekend when it came out, like the box, I was at MagicCon in Vegas, and it was like, you went to the show on Friday, the boxes were like $750-$800. When you were trying to find a box, because people were buying them everywhere, they were $1,200 on Sunday. So in 3 days, they went up $400 a box, and it was like crazy. Now they're like $1,500 plus a box, and it's insane. And they put crazy stuff in there, dude. Like they did that Lord of the Rings set, and they put a one-of-one ring in there. Post Malone bought it for like $2 million. It's like, they're putting that big crazy collectible thing in there, which is really fun. And so I love it. I buy stuff, I play, and still, like, I'm going to a pre-release on Sunday with some friends, so I'm really looking forward to that. I play online on Arena, and if you don't want to play, if you don't want to spend money, you can go buy it. You can download the client, the Arena client, make an account, and you can play Magic for free. And really kind of cool. You don't have to spend any money if you want to, and you can just build and play decks and stuff, and it's great. So, or you can be a madman.
Building decks and stuff seems like an interesting aspect, to be fair.
So then my brother loved to do it. He got overwhelmed into it. At one point, he was actually he had the number one. He was the number one. Like, he sent me the image. It was like he was ranked number one in the world on Arena for like a day, because he just like made a crazy weird deck that no one had seen before, and he just tore through it. And then he fell off because he was like, this is too much. I can't do it all the time, and my kids and all that stuff. But like I love the complexity of like, I got an idea, I want to do something fun, I want to find a character I really like, I want to build a deck around that character, or I want to deal different stuff, like so many different ways to play. It's it's an endless game, which is really cool. And then if you want to get into collecting and go crazy, like you can try to collect for high value stuff and vintage cards, and try to get the Power 9, and go down that rabbit hole, which I've done it multiple times over. I bought into stuff, and then I sell it, and I'm going to buy into it again, and I'm on the cusp of doing, there might be doing another big deal soon. So, it's crazy.
Yeah. So like you say, like hardcore collectors will obviously not be a fan of having all these new licenses come in, but it does bring new players or new collectors into that hobby, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, shout out to Payne. He's given a super chat. For some reason, it's not showing up on the Restream app, but appreciate that. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Peyton.
Yeah, so I think I've got the bundle pack, but for some reason it's coming next week with Amazon. Which
Yeah, so actually the pre-release is this weekend, and so the full release date is next weekend. So, but a lot of streamers and stuff, they get their stuff early because if you're because you can go to a WPN store, which is a Wizards Premier Network store, and so if they're a store that does pre-releases, you can actually go buy product this weekend, but the real release date is the next weekend. So like when you go to like big box stores or whatever, they'll have it then. So yeah, so it's kind of like a weird like 1 week release window, so you can buy it now, but then most places you can only buy it next week. So
is there with your connections, do you think Invincible will be coming to Magic the Gathering?
So I tried. So Mark Rosewater, who's the lead designer and one of the top guys over at Wizards of the Coast, is a massive Invincible fan. I met him at San Diego Comic-Con because he came up to the booth like, "Oh, can I buy this Invincible book?" And I was like, "You're Mark Rosewater. I love Magic the Gathering." And I'm like, take this shirt and take this book for free. And so we became like, acquaintances that way. And so we've always talked about it. And when they started doing the Secret Lair, I was like, Mark, and I was telling Skybound, I was like, here's a really cool thing. There's all this universe, all these things we could do. Would love to do it. And it's just, when you get into those high levels of like what they need to be able to turn around on stuff at the time when I was pitching to them, we didn't have the TV show yet. It was still the early days. Like knowing that, hey, it's going to be big at some point is the thing that can happen now. I think it could. I would love to see it. I think it'd be pretty awesome. It would be to have an Invincible trading card, but also I did see that there's an Overpower has come back, and then there's Invincible in the Overpower trading card game. They've got this, I think Skybound has a deal with them, and they're bringing a bunch of stuff. So I saw there's an Invincible promo card that's out. There's cool. A bunch of other cool stuff too. So if you want to get your card game fixed, you can go get Overpower and play with Invincible there.
Overpower, that was like Marvel in the 90s, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I think whoever designed the game probably got the rights back and is doing that now. So
oh, cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Also, we got a question from Pete from Triple G Comics. He has said, again, with your connections, do you know if we're getting a Invincible live action movie?
I would absolutely love that. I don't know, and I think from all I can gather is that the anime show is going so well. I think that's what they're kind of focused on. Like Robert's, all of their energy is on the animated show. I think at some point, like they'll be like, hey, we got to do a live action, so we'll do it. But whenever that happens, who knows? Like it's a no-brainer to me that would be like massive, but it's got to be right too. And I think that's probably the other thing too. They want to make sure whatever they do is going to be, it has to be as good as the animated series, or it's not going to work. So that's a big thing. So, and he also said, I'd settle for a new comic series. You got Battle Beast. Is that not enough?
Battle Beast is fantastic. Battle Beast is so much fun. It's like, it's a very short read, but it's just like, I love getting it. Honestly, it's just,
oh my God,
it's incredible.
It's all right. Like I got my comps for issue 5 here. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. The artwork is fantastic, and it's just so much fun reading it. I feel like I've read it in like literally 2 minutes, like flat. Like I'm just like, I can't believe how quickly that's gone. I can't wait for the next issue. It's really good. They're absolutely killing it. So, did Magic the Gathering used to have fat packs?
Yeah, the fat packs, they call them bundles now because they don't want to fat shame people. Which, as a fat guy, I don't care about fat. You can call me fat all the day long. But yeah, they changed away from fat packs to bundles. So yeah, it was just more of a way to not be so mean.
Corabana said they are nutty expensive. It just gets the regular boosters or commanders.
Yeah. And the commander decks are awesome. Like if you're ever out there looking for something, like they put out a commander deck, you can usually release or like $40 or whatever, and it's a whole deck you can just go play. You can get a couple of those and play with your friends or whatever. It's super super affordable then. And then once you start getting into it, then you're like, oh, this is where I'm going to start spending all my money. So yeah,
it can become dangerous. I might. There's a few places locally to me that I kind of might go and buy some packs tomorrow or Sunday. So
yeah, and the Final Fantasy ones have been so fun too because I did those like the Chocobo and the different color treatments.
Yeah,
and those
yeah.
are like super crazy rare. Then they have the gold Chocobo, which is like selling for like $20,000. It's bananas.
Absolutely crazy. I remember we talked about the Lord of the Rings, the One Ring, the one card that was out. I remember. Do you know Very Gary Comics?
Yeah,
The YouTube
yeah.
channel. So he had bought like a booster box, and he's like, right, I'm gonna live stream tonight. We're gonna look for the One Ring, and then literally, so I saw that, and then the next post that I saw was like I think it was from PSA, and they'd said that the One Ring had been found,
Yeah.
and I was like, I just messaged him and said, dude, they found the One Ring.
It's like you could have saved the box, and it would. I mean, I still have a couple boxes that I'd never opened, and they're crazy expensive right now as a sealed box too. So I'm like, well, that's
even though that there's no chance
because there's like in that set. I mean, that at the time that was like their biggest selling set ever, which was eclipsed by Final Fantasy, which I also think is going to be eclipsed by Spider-Man. But there were so many good cards in there for Commander that are staples, whether it's Orcish Bowmasters or the One Ring card itself. So it's like a lot of really cool stuff, and then rare treatments and stuff. So those are guaranteed. I think it's another $1,500 box. So
cool. No, I appreciate we've been going for nearly 2 hours, so I appreciate you.
That's crazy.
I know, yeah, and I'm sorry that I've kept you for so long.
Oh, dude, you're the one who's. It's like midnight for you right now. So
no, that's fine. It's fine. But no, I appreciate everybody watching. Clutch, you've been a fantastic guest. I would love to.
Oh, thanks, man.
I'd love to hang out again sometime, but no doubt we will hang on Beyond Wednesdays at some point.
Absolutely.
So I look forward to that. But if I could leave you one parting question, what do you think your legacy, or what do you want your legacy to be in the comic book community?
I would love for. Oh, that's a great question. I would just love to be known as like he was like a stand-up dude and a cool guy. Just a real one. Like not. I don't want to cause drama. I don't want to be. I just want to know. Hey, like people they like me. That's nice, and I like people. So yeah, easy.
I have no doubt that that's exactly what people perceive of you. So
There's a couple out there who would not say that, but it's okay. I'm not mad.
There's the drama. There's the drama. No, I appreciate it, but thanks everybody for watching. I'm trying to think. Have you got anything coming up or anything that you want to promote? Or I know you got LA Comic Con on the 28th.
Yeah, panel at LA Comic Con next week, and then New York Comic Con is after that. We're going to be doing it's going to be a crazy busy week. I have to basically turn around and I have to get the product in, the Transformers books in.
Yep.
Bag and board 3,000 books, make 1,000 packs, ship them out within like 3 days. So it's going to be a crazy period of time, and all in before New York Comic Con, and then get to New York Comic Con and do that whole thing. So we're going to 10/8. We're going to be doing the premiere Transformers pack launch at New York Comic Con, probably from my hotel room, unless space opens up on the show floor that I can do it from the eBay booth. Otherwise we'll be just doing it there, and then that weekend I've got shows with Jeff Staple and Bill Sienkiewicz, and then there's a bunch of other awesome eBay live sellers with great guests too. I think Jim Lee's going to do a show, a bunch of other awesome dudes. So it's going to be a really, really busy week, and New York's going to be awesome. And I keep hearing other really cool things chirping in. I'm like, this is going to be a massive New York Comic Con. I'm excited for it.
Wow. No, I genuinely wish you all the best. I think you're a stand-up guy, and you've been a fantastic guest. So thank you so much. And thanks,
man. You're awesome.
Watching. Cheers, buddy. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Just put the end screen on now. Bye-bye. James